Hello, I'm Leona Dooley, and this is Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme in the kitchen. And today in the kitchen, we are making spirits bright. And we're going to make those spirits bright in the kitchen by doing some baking. And I am just so excited. I've been waiting for this week and waiting especially for this day, because the first day is always the hardest day, because you got to get everything laid out, make sure you have everything you need. And once you've done that, things start moving and your kitchen is smelling great. So we're going to be baking up cakes and cookies. So stay tuned. Now, I've turned you down so you can see some of the things that I'm doing. I've got eggs. This is for one cake. This is for another cake. I've got the sugar. It's not quite measured out yet, but I've poured it into this container, so it's going to make it easier for me to dip out what I need. Now, in this particular cake, this is going to be a sweet potato pound cake. I need 2 cups of granulated sugar. So that's the reason why I needed to get that sugar. There's 1. And let's get ready for 2. And 2. There's our 2 cups of granulated sugar to go in there. Now, over in this other container, I need 1.5 cups of sugar, because this is going to be a Kentucky jam cake. And they are so good. And they're one of those cakes that I always call, it's for the adults, because we're talking about Kentucky, so you have to have some bourbon that's involved with this cake. So that's 1. I already need, no, I'm going to need to refill this so I can get some more sugar. Okay, I've got my 1/2 cup. And there we go. So we've got the sugar in there. Now, what I like to do is to kind of put things in and out, so that when it's time to turn on the mixer and get things going, I have everything I need. So the sugar and the butter are taken care of. So next, I'm going to be measuring out flour. So hold on 1 second. Let me get the flour. Now, in this container, I need, I need 3 cups of all-purpose flour, which is what we have. But it also needs to be sifted. So I'm going to use my measuring cup, and I'm going to measure. I'm going to actually have to measure this twice, because I'm going to measure before I sift, and then I'm going to measure after I sift, because the volume's going to change. And I'm putting it through a sifter so that I can lighten the flour, make sure that if there's any goopy things down in there, I can get rid of. See those little knotty little things that are up in there? Throw that out. Okay, that's 1. Shake that off, because we're going to have to remeasure. And this is going to be the second one. Most of the time when you're doing a cake, if you want a nice light cake, then you are going to need to, I've got a workman outside, so if you can hear that roar, there's 2. And I'm going to need 1 more cup. So let me see if I can get all that in there. Almost. Don't you love it? Just when you start, they get noisy. Okay, so those are 3 sifted cups of flour. Now that's the first sift. Now I'm going to put it over here in this other container. And I'm going to sift again. I'm going to sift 2 more times. Well, I'm on the last sift. Doesn't that just look like snow? Got one more little scoop to go in, and then we'll measure. All right, the last of the flour. You know, guys, wax paper is worth the investment. It just keeps your surfaces a lot cleaner, and the cleanup is just so much easier. Always cover your surface with wax paper, and you know, Dollar Tree has it. Use their brand, but it certainly saves you in the long run. Okay, so sifting done. Now it's time to measure the 3 cups into this container. That's the first scoop. I'm going to tap, 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 tap. Then take the flat end of your knife, scrape across the top. That's 1 cup. That's an accurate measurement. Now the reason you're tapping is so that you're sure that you have filled out all the spaces in your cup. And scrape. 2. And we need 1 more. And you're going to see the difference because this was 3 measured cups of flour that we measured out. And you're going to see how much extra flour, had we not sifted, would have gone into that cake. Look at all that. Now think of how heavy that cake would have been with all of that extra flour. That's flour we don't need. So, cake, 3 cups of flour sifted 3 times, and voila, that part is done. All right, now in the flour, there's some things that we need to add. We need to add a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And this is an organic cinnamon that I'm using, that I ordered through Amazon, and then I put it into a leftover cinnamon container. So I need 1 teaspoon. Here we go. We've got 1 teaspoon. Let's put him in. I'm going to scrape it on the side. Make sure I only get 1. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I need a ½ teaspoon of baking soda. I need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So let me do the baking powder since I've got this right here. The good thing about baking powder is that it has this little flat edge, and that serves a purpose. Scoop, scrape across that flat edge, and there's 1. And there's 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Okay, got our cinnamon, got our baking powder, ground nutmeg. Let me find nutmeg. Okay, I have a pod of nutmeg that I am going to grate. And I'm going to use this. And then that way, and it just smells so good. You can just smell that nutmeg. And our grater, actually it's called a microplane. Let's see, I need ½ teaspoon. So I don't think I have it yet, so I'm going to go ahead and grate up some more. You have to have a little extra, it's okay. All right, let's see what we got. I needed a ½ teaspoon. I can find it. Okay, there's my ½ teaspoon. Oh yeah, I've got enough. A ½ teaspoon of nutmeg, and since I have just a little bit left, not enough we don't want to waste it, so officially a ½ teaspoon, but if you're grinding, then you're probably going to get a little extra. So these are called whole nutmeg. so you can see that whole nutmeg, and you get a whole jar of little pods, nutmeg pods, and you just pop that right back in, put the top on it, and it's sealed up and ready to go for the next time. Okay, nutmeg, check. Let me get the baking soda. Arm & Hammer is my favorite, and we need a ½ teaspoon of Arm & Hammer. So let's get our, that's a fourth, one. All right, so I need 2 of these. 1, and get the next one, 2. There's my ½ teaspoon of baking soda. All right, so all the goodies are in there for that cake and ready to go. Now, if you wanted to, you could re-sift this, and that would guarantee that everything was evenly distributed throughout. And what I'm going to do is probably use a whisk and whisk it, because this cake I'm going to do by hand. And just to show you that you don't have to have a mixer. The good thing also about doing it by hand is that you won't over mix it, because certainly a pound cake doesn't take much for it to end up over mixed, and you don't want that to happen. Now I'm going to put this extra flour back into my container, and I'm going to kind of get things cleaned up, and then I'll be right back. All right, are we ready to work on the cake? I have the sugar, which in here I have 2 cups of white sugar. I'm putting in my cup of butter that's softened. Let me make sure I get it all. And I'm going to use my whisk, because you know I told you I'm going to do this one by hand. So I'm going to use the whisk, and I'm going to whisk this until I have a nice mixture. I don't know what it is about holding it, but it just gives it a more secure feeling in your hand. All right, whisking. Okay, it's a good mix. Now, I'm going to put in 4 eggs, and we're going to add 1 at a time. I'm going to use this little 1 cup measure. I'm going to tap it on the table. I'm going to put it into the cup to make sure that it's okay. I'm going to use a fork. I've got little pieces of nutmeg that's still down in there, but that's okay because we've got nutmeg in the recipe. And I'm going to give it a little whisk, little stir, little fork. All right, I've broken that egg up. Now I'm going to put it into my mixture. And it's just going to smooth out that sugar, the butter. It's just going to be so pretty. Let's get egg 2. This is also a good way to avoid shells in your cake. Egg 2. And I'm going to go on with egg 3 and 4, and when I finish, I'll bring you right back. Okay, guys, I'm whipping in the 4th egg. As you can see, giving it a good beat. Okay, that 4th egg has been in. You can see how pretty that is. Now, I'm going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract. the teaspoon. There he is. Now I do like extract, so, and the vanilla flavor. So I added in about a half extra. And this is pure baking vanilla extract. Now you notice I have not put the sweet potatoes in yet. And I'm about to measure out my sweet potatoes. Let me get a spatula. Okay, I have my spatula, and I had let the potatoes cool because I actually cooked them. And I'm going to place them into this ramekin, which it measures out to 1 cup. But it's a little Christmas ramekin. Okay. Okay, there's 1. And it has cooled, so it won't affect the eggs at all. Let's see how much I got left of this, and I've got more cooking on the stove. Okay, not quite another cup, so I'm probably going to have to wait a minute and get the rest of those sweet potatoes in. So I'll bring you right back as soon as I get the sweet potatoes all in. Okay, I cubed the sweet potatoes, put some water over them, boiled them, and now they are steaming hot. So what I'm doing while they're still hot, I'm breaking them up and just mashing them. And then what I'll do is just spread them out on my plate again like I had done the first batch. And we'll be able to finish up the measuring of the second cup. Because what they look like and what they actually end up measuring out to is very different, because I really thought I had enough to make that 2 cup without a problem. But, you know, it is what it is. So, here we go. All right, so that part of it's done. It's not like you're making mashed potatoes, because you're not. So I'm taking that same plate that I had, and I am pouring all of this out onto the plate, because it's going to need about 15 minutes to cool. And get all of it out. Put them in the sink. I thought I had everything clean, but you know, that's the way it goes. I still have a humongous sweet potato that's in the oven baking. So I'll use that for something else. Okay, so this needs to cool. So I'm going to set this off to the side for it to do the cooling. And then we'll be ready to continue with our cake. Okay, our cake has about another 30 minutes or so, and then I'm going to check it. In the meantime, I'm going to put together a portion of glaze. I'm starting with a cup of powdered sugar that we're going to sift, because powdered sugar has a tendency to get a little clumpy when it sits. So, and that's one of those things I try to keep on the shelf, is powdered sugar. So we're going to make our glaze. We need this, and we need some orange juice. Now, if you happen to have orange, you could certainly grate some of that orange peel into your glaze. You could do that. I'm sure it would make it quite pretty. I happen not to have an orange, so I'm just going to use my orange juice. Good thing we have that wax paper. Now remember, we have to let this cake cool a little bit before we put it over the cake. You can see how it gets really, really clumpy. I'm going to unclump, shake, 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 and then the last little bit, toss. Okay. And I'm going to put just a little bit more in there because I only have a little bit left in this package. Well, it looks like I've got enough for 2 cups, so I'll double the recipe. All right, that's one down. Let's go ahead and put the other cup in. I'm going to get a little larger bowl so we're not making so much of a mess. Back to our red bowl here. I can just pour that there. Won't hurt it at all to get sifted again. All right. Now, so let's sift, sift, sift. Takes a minute or two to get it all getting sifted. If we get any on our wax paper, of course we can just, if the wax paper is perfectly clean, then you can pour it in. If not, just leave it there. I kind of tilt my grater just a little bit so that when I tap it, it goes into the bowl rather than tapping right out. Because I think on the side where you tap it seems to be that side where the most comes out. Just that impact. Till it gets low. There we go. You know, don't be afraid to get in the kitchen. Enjoy yourself. Have fun. Try new recipes. And like this year, I had all those sweet potatoes. So man, I mean, I have done more things with sweet potatoes. I got a sweet potato biscuit recipe that I'm going to try. I've got enough sweet potatoes to be able to do that. And I'm going to just, I still have some cooling over on the plate. So why not? Sweet potatoes and cinnamon with some butter in the morning with your coffee. I think they'd be delicious. Or you could leave them savory and have them with the soup. So we've got our powdered sugar in there. And I'm going to add 4 teaspoons. 2. Okay. Let me get my whisk. You have to be really careful if you're adding. If you think you don't have enough, then probably you need to stir a little more. Just a little more. Because 9 times out of 10, like see this, the wettest portion was up in the whisk. So let's give it time to all come together before you start adding a lot. You think you don't have enough liquid. Tap this out. Until it's getting that icing thickness. Uh-oh. I'm going to add just a smidget. I want to be able to work with it. Another whisk, another spatula. Make sure we have it all in. Gonna get thick, gonna get sticky, gonna get all of that. Take that out for just a minute. My spatula, I'm gonna work with it. Not quite ready. Need just a little more. Let me measure. Another full tablespoon. There we go. Remember, I doubled this amount because I want it to, I want to have plenty. I don't want it to tighten up so much that I can't work with it. There we go. Okay, there it is. Now, there's our glaze, ready to go. So when that cake comes out, voila, it's going to be good to go. Okay, I'm going to take the cake out and let you see me test it. And there it is. I have a skewer that I get at the Dollar Tree. Notice it came out clean. So you know the cake is ready. Nice and clean. All right. Now, I am going to place a plate over it. I usually give it about 10 minutes and then flip it out of the pan. So that's exactly what we are going to do. Well, let's see if we can get it flipped out of this pan. It's been out at least 10 minutes and I'm going to flip it. This cake doesn't want to come out. Even after a good grease, I think I might have to work on him. So let me flip it back over. Okay, he didn't come out pretty, but he came out eventually. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm actually going to flip it onto this other plate, because this is really the one I want it on. So let me put it here. Now that I've gotten it out, scoot it out, hand on top, hand on bottom, and flip. That way we'll have a nice smooth cake. There we go. Voila. Now I'm going to take these little pieces of wax paper and put it around the edges. And the reason why I'm doing that is so that when I put the streusel around it, it will keep the plate clean. Okay, now remember we made our glaze. And he's ready. And this little container has a little like lip on it. So I'm going to start there and let it run. Then I'm going to take a little more. Just take the back of your spoon and just smooth it a little bit. Where you think you want a little more, put a little more. Okay. Now, our orange glaze is on our cake. I'll bring you down just a little bit so you can get a better view. There you go. Now, that's ready. I'm going to let that sit and continue to just kind of run off the sides. And later, I'll pull these pieces of paper out and our cake will be finished. So, sweet potato pound cake, done. Well, our sweet potato pound cake is going to be delicious. I'm going to serve it later, and I'll make sure that I take a picture of it so you'll be able to see what we've done. But I think this is going to go over well. I've been able to use those sweet potatoes, and that is always a good thing. Now, when you get a massive amount of vegetables, you've got to start researching and finding out what you can do and a different way to use whatever that vegetable is. In this case for me, it was the sweet potato. And so I have a sweet potato that's over here, and to show you, this is one of the big ones. I baked him, and I'm just letting him cool, then I'm gonna package him and put him into the refrigerator so I can use it later. But I have plenty of sweet potato at this point that I can pull out and I can use for something in a recipe. So don't think that a sweet potato casserole is the only thing that you can use a sweet potato for, nor is a sweet potato pie. There are other options. It's a vegetable. Enjoy it. See you soon in the kitchen.